Welcome back to SoulNet. We are very excited about today's episode. We have a special guest with us. Her name is Meredith Dawson. She's an extraordinary educator who works with nature as her teaching partner. So she provides nature-based group and one-to-one support through her educational coaching programs like Wild Wonder and Wellbeing Walks. These programs are for kids, youth, adults, and she's going to share some of the benefits of nature-based education with us today. A good friend. She has so much wisdom to share. Welcome, Mother Earth, Meredith Dawson.
Welcome to the pod, Meredith.
Feeling very honored.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you so much. It feels amazing to be here with all three of you. We've all traveled a path to this point, so thank you. And to anyone else who's listening to this, they'll know me as Miss Mare.
Miss Mare.
I love it. So maybe this is a really great lead-in to how did you discover these beautiful healing qualities that nature has to offer for yourself first, and then how you could pass this on to the children you work with?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Dana. You know, I was reflecting on this just before this, and I was remembering how we were also privileged and lucky to grow up on the North Shore in Vancouver, where we had nature, you know, mountains in our backyard and ocean in our front yard. And in my own personal backyard, even though I had this wonderful playhouse that my father had built for me, I also had this amazing laurel bush. And if I wanted to disappear from everything else in the world, that's where I went. And just to go into this laurel bush and no one could see me, and I could pretend like I didn't hear anyone, and I could take a book or a pillow or just my sketch pad or nothing at all, and just let myself soften. And so between that and the childhood time that I spent in New Zealand, where my grandmother lived on a beach and I could go off and play in the ocean and pretend like I was the mermaid that I always dreamt of being, those things always just made me feel whole. And I always knew as I moved into my teaching career that that is the message and the experience I wanted to create for others.
Oh, so beautiful. Wow.
Yeah.
So you were just a wee one when you discovered these healing properties that nature could offer us.
I think without even putting a name to it, yes. My body knew, right? And I think I was so lucky, as I said, lifetime of outdoor adventures. And then when I came into teaching, I actually was teaching quite early on in Australia. I'll never forget the first day that it rained. And we know as North Shore girls, rain is just a part of life. You know, if you don't go outside when it rains, you're never going outside.
Yes.
And I was busy getting the kids ready, and I was getting them excited for puddle jumping and all the different things we could experience outside in the rain. And one of the other teachers said, "Oh no, we don't go outside when it's raining. It's too much work."
Wow.
And I said, "But what are we missing out on?"
Right.
Right? When we always think first of the barriers instead of just the beautiful opportunities that is providing.
Wow. Oh, Meredith, I love that so much. And actually, this brings back a memory that I have of you from our younger days, is that you were very much a glass is half full. And so you've kept that beautiful quality with you.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's definitely kept me going. Going out into nature gave me the space and the nourishment to move my body, to just be quiet, because I started running out in the trails and giving myself that time to just process. And when you think of how constricted our processes feel, think of that for our children in classrooms with 4 walls and chairs to sit in and their muscles tight and the expectations of all the ways that we need to navigate in a smaller space.
Yeah.
You take all of that energy, that collective energy outside into the grace and the space that nature provides. And it's amazing to watch how our processes can evolve and transform.
Wow.
The enlightened classroom.
Yeah, exactly. It's the most natural thing in the world, even though as an early childhood educator, which was what my first training was, one of our first lessons is the environment is another teacher. It's our co-teacher. But we are talking man-made environments. And then we're forgetting that actually right outside the door, we don't have to build everything. It's already given to us.
I guess it just, for me, takes me back to training and conditioning, and how in our adult age at this point, and for many people now, we're learning not to be seated in front of our computers and at a desk for 8 hours a day or 5 hours a day or even 3 hours. So it's like now we're being taught to get up and set your Apple Watch and your timers and move your body, even though when we went to school, we were literally sitting behind a desk for 7 hours a day.
And still today.
Yeah. And still today. And, maybe some of us got lucky having a class of physical education every couple of days.
And happen to enjoy phys ed, because a lot of people don't
That's
enjoy
right.
that part of movement, right?
That's true. So there was no other option, was there? So we're actually kind of trained to not use nature as our teaching partner.
Yeah.
So thankfully, we have people like you who are bringing that to the forefront.
Well, and I think that's such an interesting point, because when we think about nature, and I just heard this quote yesterday from a man that I follow from Australia, who's an amazing resource when it comes to nature learning. And he said, nature is not a place to visit. It's our home.
Mm.
And so you think about how you feel when we step into a forest or onto a beach, and how our body just softens, our system just softens, because we know we feel a deep connection to that land. Part of the reason that I moved into the work that I did as an educator was because time and time again, our education system says, no, this is the way it needs to be, because this is the way it's always been since the Industrial Revolution. So we're evolving as humans, technically, but we're not allowing our systems that are supporting us to evolve. We're holding them in a space of, I can understand this. I don't have to question it. I don't have to try. I don't have to be uncomfortable. And I know, Eilina, this is a point for you, like that. I love that contrast of discomfort, right?
Mm.
That's where our growth is. Just taking those spaces and really stepping into them, allowing the unknown to unfold. It's amazing to watch.
Wow. Yes.
One of my favorite things I think on that is that I feel like what we're inviting the children back into is the sense of wonderment that we naturally have as children. And so by guiding them through nature, you're giving them the opportunity to be children and to feel that deeper connection beyond computer screens and beyond our problems at home or whatever else might be happening in their lives. You're just giving them the gift of childhood.
Mm-hmm. And not just children. And that's the thing, is that I think for me, the work that I'm doing, so say my Wild Wonder program, which is every Wednesday and it's elementary students, but the parents who come for drop off and pick up, a lot of the time they're wanting to stay. They're hearing about all the amazing adventures that that we have, and they're seeing how learning is so far beyond math on a page or reading a book or science of dissecting a frog in a classroom. My children were dissecting a salmon on the rocks
Wow.
a few weeks ago because it was salmon season and the salmon washed up, and the next thing they wanted to know, so they took out their carving knives and we just let that go. And these are children from kindergarten all the way up to grade 7 together. So you have that multi-age, beautiful sharing of community and connection and understanding that we just don't get when we're in separate classrooms, separated by walls, contained to chairs. And then on top of that, our nervous systems aren't able to regulate and able to feel fully supported. And when we allow our bodies to move, which is what we're built to do, it changes everything. So we have the children experiencing it, but I also have early year programs where the families are out with us. And so then, as the families say to me, the magic isn't in the activities that I bring with us in my big backpack. It's actually just those moments that happen,
Right.
those unexpected moments. And you don't get those when you're inside a classroom with a regulated schedule.
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah. So that wonder that you spoke of, Dana, that's it, right? We come out, we have ideas, we have supplies, and then we just open up our hands and say, let's see where the day takes us.
I love that so much as a middle-aged person as well. Like, I feel like I've rediscovered
Yes.
that. And I literally get lost in the forest or in the beach, wherever I am. And it's such a beautiful gift as an adult to revisit that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one thing I always suggest to people, because when I support teachers, which I do province-wide, and they say, but how do I start? And I say, just take your kids on a noticing walk.
A noticing walk.
with like just no agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Just what do you notice? What do you notice with your different senses? Take your shoes off, touch things, smell things, hug things. Like, just use all your senses and that intuitive sense as well. And really just sit back and listen and lean in. Find a sit spot under a tree, close your eyes, feel the ground underneath you, which for some adults and children is so disconcerting.
Yes.
So it's amazing to watch them move through that uncomfortable space of, oh, but if I put my hands down,
Yeah.
or if I put my seat down and I'm going to be wet, and what that's going to feel like, right? Or what things are going to smell like is amazing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Waking up those senses. The things that we awaken in our systems that are deadened by schedules and by over planning and by prescribed learning,
Mm.
these are the things that get woken up.
Mm.
That aliveness, that sense of aliveness. And it's
Yeah.
it's not a cognitive understanding of connected. It's like a total somatic embodied experience of being connected. Yeah.
Exactly. And there was an experience just this past Wednesday where we were doing different activities, and this one student, he goes, I am actually allowing myself to feel creative.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just stopped and I just heard him saying this to somebody else off to the side. And I thought, I need to hold that. Like he's allowing himself to feel creative.
Wow.
Because like you said, Dana, phys ed class, not my jam.
Yes.
I have bad memories of skipping and the fitness testing and all things. Now I love fitness because I love to move, because I love to feel strong and connected and all those things. Those are the feelings we want.
Yeah.
We start with the feeling. I always say to my students, and we follow the feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Are you feeling tired today? Take a rest. Are you feeling energized today? Let's go bear walk across a log. Are you feeling creative? Grab your sketch pads. Are you feeling like you need to dig into something? Let's carve. What is the feeling that your body needs fulfilled?
That's such an honoring.
And if we can do that more, the learning that comes, it happens.
Wow.
Going with the flow of life versus against.
And when we don't restrict the movement, because I think that's one of the key things is we have that space and that grace. So when children do need to regulate and co-regulate, they can move away, they can come back in. Like there's just that natural allowing of it. One of my biggest memories from primary school was you talk too much. You would do better if you talked less. You need to go out in the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
So there's shame and there's disconnect and there's pushing away and all of those things.
And repressing.
And separating.
Yeah.
The children that I work with, and a lot of them that come to my outdoor programs, I work with them one-on-one as well. And I just say, let's just allow them to be. I see you have big energy today. How do you need that to move through you? Not how do we need to squash that so I can get my job done?
Wow.
Because this is my work.
Oh, so amazing, Meredith.
Yeah.
Where were you for all of us, right?
Can I just add to what you were saying about working with nature as a teaching partner? You get to go and guide these students, and nature as a teacher doesn't judge us. So we can feel that freedom to create and to be who we are, right? Whereas when we're in a contained and structured environment and we're being coached or taught, and there's sort of like a leader that's kind of telling us how things are done, there might be expectation. There might be some judgment in that environment. Whereas in nature, when you are guiding alongside the forest or the woods or the garden, the backyard, it just is so non-judgmental in that space.
So we all have the access to nature in one way or another. It's just, do we want to be able to honor, like you say, the need that isn't being fulfilled by the old ways? And then just kind of allowing it to try different things and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, we try something else. And also, we don't have to have all the answers, unlike the teacher at the front of the room.
Right.
That's right.
My students, I'm learning from them all the time. We're collaborating. They plan their yearly summer camp. They plan their yearly field trips. We follow their lead.
Yeah.
And that gives them a sense of honor and of ownership, and also a really deep respect for the environment that they are in.
Mm-hmm.
We honor the plants, we honor the earth. So there's so many levels and to the learning.
And the relationship. right? So you're honoring that not only the child or the adult that you're out with, but you're also honoring nature as a being, all nature beings. So it's relational. You're actually teaching or guiding them to be in relationship with the environment.
With each and everything that they encounter. Exactly. Exactly. And I think that's such a beautiful thing for a lot of these children who do struggle with different relationships in their lives. They live with different neurodiversities. I mean, we all have our own neurodiversities, but in these spaces, that with our nervous systems, our extender muscles are connected to our parasympathetic nervous system. So when we're allowed to move, we can naturally regulate. When we are flexing our muscles and we're sitting in a chair and we're behind a desk, we're in sympathetic state. So our kids are like little ticking time bombs in a classroom, just quivering. And you look at them the minute they burst out into the playground. And then you get behaviors and you wonder why. Well, it's because they have all this pent up stuff. As you said, Meg, the non-judgmental space of the forest or the beach or wherever they are, they're just constantly feeding back, releasing into the earth, and then being nourished up through the earth because they're always in connection with it.
Traveling through time and space, it puts us into that ability to move what's stuck inside and process.
Because that's what's meant to happen with our systems, right? We know that we're all energy. Our energy is supposed to move. Emotion is energy. We can't keep them bottled up. Giving them a space to be able to just grace, no judgment, let it come out however it looks for them in that moment.
So when you're out with the groups, how many kids do you take with you? Like, what are the size of your groups that you're working with?
So when I'm with my family groups, I can take up to 10 families. And I love that because it makes it really accessible for the families. So they just pay per family.
Nice.
With my other students, I have up to 10 students at a time. That about a year ago or a year and a half ago, I reconnected with one of my Strong Start mamas. She's an Australian girl who's also an educator, loves the outdoors, but has her group over in Vancouver. Well, she drives her students over every Wednesday. So our two groups come together.
Wow.
So I have up to my 10 students. And then we've got her group. And between them, they've all formed these beautiful relationships.
Amazing.
And it's just incredible. So we can have up to sometimes 20 kids in the forest and 2 adults and 2 dogs. And we're out there in all different spaces, like from beaches to forest and, wherever we find ourselves. And then with my other program, with the Wellbeing walks, with my one-on-one work, that is obviously just me and another person. And when I work with the whole family, sometimes we do work out in nature. Sometimes we do it at home, wherever they feel safe, because that's the thing. I want their systems to feel nurtured.
Amazing.
Great wisdom. I love how you're teaching kids that nature will hold all of your big energy. You got big energy? Share it with nature.
Oh, I love that too.
Yeah. Let it absorb into a rock. Let it absorb through your feet. Go hug a tree, feel that, right?
Nature's big enough to co-regulate that with you. Like embrace it like the mother,
I love that you mentioned that, Eilina, because I have to share this with everybody and the audience. So last week, my older students, they were carving and they had these big sticks. And a stick is my favorite toy and my favorite tool because it's just endless possibilities, right? The next thing, they've disappeared. They're somewhere off in the forest and we can hear them, but we can't see them. And that's our general rule, as long as we can hear you and you can hear us. Well, the next thing we find out, they're having warrior games with their staffs and they're moving their bodies and they're balancing on things. And I didn't have to do anything. They knew exactly how to do this and how to honor their experiences and each other's different because they were all from grades 4 to 7.
That's incredible.
It was beautiful. One of my other favorite things that I just introduced recently, and I'll just leave it with this, is scribble sketches. So that thing about permission to be creative, and I was a stick figure kind of girl when it came to drawing. But if we do scribble sketches where we just find an object, so say a pine cone, and you place it on your paper, and then you just start going for it, and you just see what comes out, right? And then all of a sudden, it just gives them permission to make mistakes and to try different things and to move it around and see things in a different way. And that's all of those cognitive skills that we want them to have without telling them there is a specific outcome. It's really important.
Yeah.
And it's so fun to just scribble.
Yeah. Free flow expression.
Permission to play and be exactly who they are.
Permission to play, permission to be creative, permission to wonder, permission to explore, permission to
Yes.
take missteps and refigure it and choose again. Permission to choose again.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Yes. Gosh, we all need that, right? All the time.
And be risky and take chances and yes, play with the stick and yes, run with the stick and yes, let's make bow and arrows and all of these things and let's just express ourselves, but knowing that there are guidelines so everybody feels safe energetically.
It's like primal permission for just that, what you are, combined with safeguards, guidelines. Yeah.
Yeah, for risky play, when I did my risky play training, I love the quote, which is making things as safe as necessary, not as safe as possible.
Amazing.
Wow. Love that.
So climbing a tree is safer than playing grounders on a playground equipment with their eyes closed, right? Because they're moving with the tree. And I have to credit that quote. It's Maria Brussoni and Ian Pike, who work out of UBC, both doctors who teach risky play and are wonderful resources, so that we are allowing our children and ourselves to be that wild thing.
Right. Exactly.
To feel that wildness, to feel that movement, to really experience that. Let ourselves just play and be risky.
I love that. Reminds me of the grown-up playground that is our gyms, right? Is kind of an opportunity to do that. And one of the rules I've always followed with clients, because there's all sorts of really fun stuff that you can do that has relevance. But if risk outweighs the value of the exercise, then we're not going to do it.
Right.
Yes, exactly. Like one of our rules is you can only climb twice as high as your body.
Wow.
So if you are 5 feet tall, you can climb to 10 feet because you can still land safely and stuff like that, right? And those are those mitigations that you make. And what's wonderful is when you inform the kids and you actually discuss it with them so they have an understanding of why those guidelines are there, they don't push them because they know. They're like, oh, okay, cool. I still get to do this. I'm allowed to take these chances and still feel good and supported doing it.
And they're learning like personal boundaries and personal responsibility for these things that they choose to do too, because it's not being, no, you can't, or no, you have to. Like, how beautiful, like just Meredith, amazing, honestly. Like, this is, I think, how we make a difference in our children and the world.
Yeah. I'm definitely a lucky, lucky girl to be able to live my life educating this way and guiding this way.
I also apply some of that to my parenting style. It's not that I tell my kids not to do things. I encourage them to do things, but always with safety in mind. When I'm saying that maybe you want to rethink something, or maybe you want to just think about that a little bit more, I always put that safety lens on it for them too. Like whether they're online or they're going out, like they're teenagers now, they're exploring, they're, more independent. So I use that language as well. Like it's like mitigating risk. Everything that I've talked to them about, it's not nagging them not to do something. It's just always do it with safety in mind. What would you do to ensure that you're going to be safe?
And also considering that being mindful over being careful, because the minute we say be careful to our bodies stiffen up. If we're mindful, if we're present, if we're aware, we can move and we can flow, right? And also too, I always think of saving the word stop for when it's a life-threatening situation.
Very good.
Because we overuse words and then our system shuts them out. So we wonder why kids don't hear us when we say stop. It's because we say it 1,000 times a day. But if we say it when they're running into a road, they're going to hear us.
That's right.
Versus they're going to go jump off something like a log and you're like, stop. No, you're going to say, oh, how's that going to feel when you land? Have you thought about your landing? Where are you planning on landing? Get curious with the questions. And I think that's a big thing, is that to be curious over being judgmental and not putting our own experience and our own concerns on the situation.
Yes.
Which is hard. It's really hard to do. I think we definitely need to do one about teenagers, because that's like the playground of parenthood is figuring that out.
Oh my God. So I just want to say that brings us kind of full circle to curiosity. What was that quote that you just said about curiosity and not judgment?
Allowing ourselves to be curious and ask questions rather than being judgmental, it just opens things up to a conversation.
It really does. And that's what nature does. It welcomes our curiosity without the judgment.
Yes.
So again, going back to nature as our teaching partner, as our friend, going out to nature, remembering nature is alive, that we are all nature.
And it was our first home. Without it, we don't have anything. So let's get out there and spend some more time there and really feel it.
That's right.
I feel so blessed to have a community of humans who are really honoring their authentic path and their authentic passion.
Mm-hmm.
And all three of you are just incredible. We may not have always been side by side like this, but we always had something special connecting us. This is what I want for kids. I want them to just feel so connected and vibrant in their life and having the agency to have some attitude and just like claim their life for what they want, not what everybody else tells them they have to do with it.
Yeah.
And where can people find you?
Yeah. So on Instagram, I'm Aspiring Thriver because they just happen to be two of my favorite words. And then Thriving Life Co. is the name of my business. So that's thrivinglifeco.com is the website. But those can be the two places they can find me for sure.
You're such a gift. You're a gift to us. You're a gift to our listeners. We are so grateful for you. Before we sign off, you've given us a quote that I thought was really beautiful.
This is like an unknown. I just love it so much. It's on my website because it just sums it up.
Yeah.
It really does. Do you want to say it?
Sure. There's no Wi-Fi in the forest or any other place in nature you could put in there, but you'll definitely find a better connection. I promise you, you'll find a better connection.
Isn't that amazing? There's no Wi-Fi in the forest, but I promise you, you'll find a better connection.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So good. Oh, thank you, Meredith. And thank you, listeners, for spending your time with us, for sharing your hearts with us. We wish you all a very peaceful holiday season, and we look forward to connecting with you here and in nature in 2024.